Hi, my name is Alex, and now I'll show you how to deploy a Node.js web application, full stack application, to Oracle Cloud. The first thing we want to do is you want to create an account on Oracle Cloud and start a trial subscription, which is very generous in Oracle. And then we want to create a virtual machine where we'll host our Node.js server and then port forward it so that the world can access it through the internet. Go to the navigation menu, compute instances. Create a new instance and will give it a descriptive name. I'm going to be deploying a group chat application, so I'm going to call it group chat virtual machine, group chat VM. Then keep this on default. Image and shape. In this category, you can select the operating system you want to use for the virtual machine. You can use multiple versions of Linux and Windows. I recommend starting with the default Oracle Linux. It is fine and it's free. I believe Windows versions are not free eligible, but most of Linux are. So keep it on default. So the version of the OS. Also keep the shape of the virtual machine on default. In the VNIC information, which is your virtual network, you will want to create a new virtual cloud network. Give it some short descriptive name like group chat network. And we'll also create a new public subnet. Keep this on default. Okay, this is a very important part. Add SSH keys. SSH is a protocol we will use to remotely access and manage our server. In order to authenticate, instead of using password, we're going to be using a private key. And this is the only place where you can actually download it. So press Save Private Key. It'll download the file on your computer. There is no way to get this private key after the creation step. So it's very crucial to download it right now. Keep this on default and press Create. Okay, our virtual machine is creating. So the Oracle Cloud gives you, it gives you a $300 free credit, and this virtual machine is about $2 a month. So know that if you're going to use it for production application. Virtual machine, just like any computer, you can turn it off and you can turn it on, and you can do it through this Cloud Console. You can use this button start and stop and reboot to control the power to your machine. Okay, it's running, and let's connect to it to set up our server. To do that, we will need to use a terminal. On Windows, in the latest versions, SSH is a built-in feature in a Windows terminal. So you can just open a Windows search terminal and it will open the terminal window. It'll be very similar to Mac OS and Linux. You just find terminal window. And if you're using an old version of Windows that does not have SSH, you will need to use a third-party client like Buddy. In order to connect to our instance, we're going to type an SSH command. Then we'll put a -i flag to indicate that we're using a key. And we will need to get a path to the key stored in our local machine. It's the file that we downloaded with extension.key. You're going to open it in the folder. And in the File Explorer, if you right-click the file in the latest version, in the Windows 11, there's an option Copy as Path. In older versions, you can just copy this path in the File Explorer and just add the file name. So I'm going to paste it right here. There should be a full path in our drive to the private key file. Then you will need to put the username with which you want to log in the system. It'll be provided in the web browser right here, username OPC, which is the default admin username on Oracle Linux. then we put the @ and put the address of the machine. In this case, it's this public IP address. You can just press copy and enter. Since we're connecting to this machine for the first time, it will ask if we actually want to connect to it because it's not verified. We do want to connect with it, so yes. Okay. This indicates that the connection to remote machine is successfully established. It should say the username which we used and the name of our virtual machine, group chat VM. Now, if you're new to using a Linux terminal, here is a crash course. In order to see all files in the current directory, you will use an ls command or list. Since we're in an empty directory, there's nothing in it. But which directory are we in? To know that, we will type pwd, print the working directory, and you can see that we are right now in home/opc, which is our username. To move between directories, for example, to move up, we will use the cd command to change directories, and we'll use // to move up. So if I print our working directory one more time, you can use up and down keys to navigate in the history of your commands and execute them again. And we can see that we are in one directory up, so we are in the home directory right now. We can also see if there are any new folders in the directory, but yeah, we right now see there's only OPC, which we were in a minute ago. So we will place our web server in a folder called var. So let's change directory into the very root of the file system. These are the root folders. So let's cd into var. Here we can see a lot of folders for different services running in the system. And the convention is that we'll create a www folder for our web stuff. So to create new folder, we'll use the mkdir command or make directory www, and this command will fail because the folder var is actually protected for admin usage, and we will need elevated permissions to create a folder here. To do that, we will need to add a prefix sudo to our command to run the command as a super user. This prefix only works if you are an admin on the system. OPC user is the admin on the system, so this will work. And if I run command, it has successfully created the folder www. So let's dive into this folder, which is currently empty as expected. And we want to pull our code in this folder. To pull code and to manage code, I will use git. And git is not yet installed on this machine. It is an unknown command. So I will use package manager DNF to install git. But this command is also requires admin permissions on the system because we're installing a new package on the system level. This might take a minute to a couple of minutes. During the installation, it might ask you if it's okay to install also the dependencies of the Git, and it is okay because they're required for Git's proper work. Okay, this tells us that Git is successfully installed. We can check that by typing git-v to check its version, and it tells its version, which means that it is installed. So while we're at it, let's install Node.js as well, because it's not installed by default. So exactly same command, Node.js, sudo dnf install Node.js. This will automatically install the latest version available. So Node installation is complete. Let's test it by typing node-v. And we can see that it also is installed with version 10. So Next thing we want to do is download our repository or clone it from GitHub. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using the DevOSU group chat. It's available in this URL, which will also be in description in a document. In order to get linked to the Git file, which we need to clone the repository, you will need to click the code, and here it is, .git. You're going to copy this path, and then in terminal, you'll need to make sure you're in the directory where you want to clone the repository. In this case, we're www, which is correct. And I'm going to type git clone URL. Oh, and we need admin permissions for this command because we are operating in a protected folder. Okay, 100% done. Let's test it. Yep, and we have a group chat here. So it copied the entire code to this folder. We can cd into group chat. We can press tab to autofill the path. And we have all our files here, including Node.js. So let's try to run our server by typing node index.js. Oh, and it didn't work because there's one thing missing in our repository. Libraries, which are normally stored in the folder node modules, take a lot of space when you develop a project and download libraries, like Express. And this is why it's a bad practice to store the libraries in the repository, and you should only use repository for your own code. So in order to download the libraries again, we will run the command npm install, which will look in our package.json file, this one, which has a list of all libraries which we use for our project. And it's gonna download the libraries from the internet again. And we need to run this as sudo because we're operating in the protected folder. We have downloaded libraries, and we can actually check that we now have a node modules folder, which we did not have before. Yeah, it's not here. And now let's again run node index.js and service listening on port 3000. So the server is successfully running. However, if I try to copy this public URL and just join it, or just type it in the URL bar with the port 3000, the connection will not go through. This happens because the cloud structure of Oracle Cloud, and it is exactly the same with other cloud providers, has a firewall and multiple systems that are protecting our internal network. So the first thing we need to do is to enable Oracle Cloud itself to allow the TCP request on port 3000 to our virtual machine instance. To do that, we will go to the virtual machine interface in the web browser, to the attached VNICs, select the subnet we created, and here in security list, the default security list for network. And here we will need to add an ingress rule. Ingress rule is what happens when someone requests our server from the outside of the cloud, so from the internet. Egress rules refer to those happening within our cloud infrastructure. For example, we have virtual machines which work together and interact with each other, or there's a database that needs to be queried by our virtual machine. So we'll add a new ingress rule, keep the source type as CIDR, and the source CIDR will be 0000/0, which is the default. The IP protocol will be TCP, and we'll keep the source port range to all, and then destination port range, just type whichever port you want to host your server on. In this case, our server works on port 3000, so I will open it to port 3000. In order to change the port, you will need to change it in both places. And the second thing we need to do is to allow the virtual machine itself, its internal firewall, to process requests in port 3000. So first we need to stop the server. Since it's a program that is running, we cannot type any more commands. They will just go into Node instead of bash terminal. So we need to terminate our server by pressing Control-C. Control-C is a command that terminates whatever is running currently in the Linux terminal. And the same applies to Windows and I believe macOS as well. In order to open the firewall, we will use the command sudo firewall cmd permanent at port 3000 TCP. This command will also be linked in the description. Okay, this was a success. And now we also need to reload the firewall by typing sudo firewall cmd -- reload. Okay, this was a success. And now let's start the server again. Node index.js. And let's try to access our website. Ta-da, it is hosted. And in fact, this IP address and this specific address is accessible from any machine in the world that's connected to internet. So you can try copy this address on your phone and try to open the web from your phone or from your tablet or from any other device. However, with our current state of things, there's one issue. If you close the terminal right now, your server will terminate because the process of Node.js is running in this specific SSH connection. So we need some way to add our server as a service to the operating system, so it runs in the background instead of in a terminal window. In order to do that, we'll need to create a service file. So let's stop the server. And we'll need to go to the directory etc systemd system. Okay, now that we're in the system folder, let's create our service file by typing sudo vi gc or group chat .service. I'm going to use vi as my editor. Vi is a text editor that is built in, that is installed by default on a lot of Linux distributions. Press enter to open the file. If you have never used VI before, it has two main modes, the command mode, which is the default right now, and the insert mode. In command mode, I can navigate in my file. Since it's empty, I cannot go anywhere with the arrow keys. And I can switch to insert mode by pressing I. It says insert in the bottom left. And I can actually type things in the file now. For the service file, I'm going to paste a boilerplate. It will be the document in the description of the video. And here, I'm going to change a few things. First, the description. I will make it dev group chat. Next, the execution start. Here we'll need to give full path to our executable and any parameters. Since we're using Node to run our application, we're gonna use Node here. Space and the address, full address to our index.js file. If you have full tutorial up until this point, your index.js should be in the following folder: /var/www/groupchat /index.js. Now just change your working directory to wherever your group chat folder is, or your project folder. Again, var group chat. Don't forget to add an equal sign here. Okay. Now, in order to save and exit the file, we need to press escape to switch to the command mode. Insert disappears. And let's type command : in the left bottom corner. It automatically starts showing the command WQ to save and quit the file. Now that we have created the service file, let's restart the service unit by typing the command systemctl daemon reload. And now let's enable our new service on the system restart by typing sudo systemctl enable and the name of our file, which was gc group chat. And now the same, but instead of enable start, to actually start the server right now. Great. Now our server should be started again, and let's go to the web browser and reload the page. And yeah, we can see that the server is running. We can reload the page, and the website is still accessible. I can type hello, and the message is sent and visible. I can duplicate the tab, and the message will be visible in both tabs. And even if I close my SSH connection by closing the terminal window, the server will still be working, and the website is still accessible on any device. And this is how you deploy a full-stack web application on Node.js to Oracle Cloud. One more important thing is if you go back to Oracle Cloud console and you go back to your instance, you can see that it's still running. And cloud virtual machines are built by hour normally. So while this virtual machine is on, it uses money from your free trial credit. So when you are done playing around with the virtual machine and deploying your application, and you do not want it to be accessible anymore, you can just stop the virtual machine, stop instance, by powering it off. This is very dangerous if you're using a beta account to accidentally leave a machine on when you were not intending to leave it on. But if you are deploying application for production, you are supposed to have your machine running 24/7, so that your website is accessible 24/7. This is it. There will be a link in the description with full document with all commands and code snippets that you can use to follow this tutorial. And thank you for watching. My name is Alex. I will see you in dev.